So you want to get married. I am so glad to hear that. I'm a huge fan. I think marriage can do great things for you. I think you'll love it. But you know, creating a great marriage doesn't just happen. I'm pretty convinced that you probably love each other. But loving someone versus learning how to love someone is two different things. I'm glad you love each other, but in this course, I want to help you prepare for how to learn how to love each other. I think there's three great wedding vows that everyone should have that they present to each other as they're about to get married. One is to commit that I will change, because if we don't change as people, we're not good for anybody, certainly not a spouse. Second one, I will grow, because we become adults. It does not mean that we're done growing. Sometimes for some people, we look at childhood as kids need to grow up, and then adults kind of become stuck in patterns of thought and living, and we got to keep growing. The third thing is to promise to someone, I'm going to learn how to love you. I do love you, but I'm going to learn how to love you. I'm glad you're doing this course. A lot of couples venture into marriage with great excitement, but we need more than excitement. We need some tools. Could you imagine two people being excited about building a campfire, and they have s'mores and they have some chocolate and some graham crackers, but no wood and no matches? Well, it doesn't matter how excited you are about making s'mores at a campfire. If you do not have wood, uh, the excitement only gets you so far. So in this course, I'm going to tell you up front the secret sauce. Really, the secret of this whole course is simply this: is to help the two of you learn how to have difficult conversations together. This separates successful couples from couples that are just frustrated, annoyed, and just not happy being together. You see, relationships, like marriage especially, it doesn't get better because we do something like go to the movies together. Don't get me wrong, I recommend going to the movies together. A marriage is not strong because you take a great vacation, although I recommend great vacations. But those are like celebrations. What makes a relationship stronger is when two people navigate through the conflicts or the disagreements that life brings you. You see, couples that struggle, when they have some kind of disagreement that hits them, what they tend to do is think of fatal thoughts. A fatal thought is like, we shouldn't have got married, or this person is a mess. I don't know how I can, I don't know how we can stay married. Instead of thinking it's totally normal for two people living together to have disagreements on how something should be done. Totally normal. And so if people learn to look at those conflicts as being opportunities to grow and become better, then they embrace the disagreements as an opportunity. That being said, the secret sauce of the conversations that I lead you into is in hopes that you will learn how to have difficult conversations. I talk with so many couples that are married, so many couples that are unhappily married, and I'll talk to one spouse of the two, and they're like, I can't say anything. I can't bring this thing up. And they simply do not know how to have difficult conversations. So I think you're going to have fun with this. And I think you're going to grow. And the first thing I want to ask you is a question. Take a scale of -10 to +10. And if you have paper, or if you're at a restaurant and you got a napkin you can draw on, simply make a scale of -10 to +10. Now, +8 to +10 represents powerful, love filled, fun filled, exciting, adventurous marriage relationship. Now, -8 to -10 represents we pretty much hate each other. We're either getting divorced or thinking about it regularly, or we're only staying together because of the kids. But -8 to -10 is just like destructive despair, hopelessness. My question for you is this: when the two of you get married, what number do you start at? Do you start at +10? Is that where it starts? Does it start around 0? Where do you think your marriage begins? The day you get married, what number do you start at? This would be a good time to pause the video and ask each other that question, because I think the answer is very telling in terms of how you look at marriage. I want to tell you where you're starting. You're starting at 0. Now, don't get mad at me. I'm not saying that you're bad people or you're not good for marriage. I'm not saying you're not ready for marriage. I'm saying that anybody who gets married starts at 0. Marriage simply has to be built, and that takes time and intentionality to build, just like a house. If you're going to build a house, you start with just land. All you have is land. There is much work to be done in order to build it. Similar to a business, you can be excited about, I'm starting a business. Well, that's great. I'd be excited too. But how much work is there to be done before the business is actually successful? Similar to marriage, you start at 0 at the very best. Now, if you have other complications in your life, like maybe one of you has a couple kids, maybe you both have a couple kids from a previous relationship. Now, does that add more struggle? Sure, it does. But that's okay. Like, life is full of struggle. Life is not about, um, you can't avoid all struggle. So if you have struggle, just acknowledge it and realize, okay, this is something we're going to have to overcome. It's going to be a little bit harder, but we're going to have to face this intentionally. Let's not pretend. I've talked to people who have, they have a couple kids from this marriage and they have a couple of kids from this relationship. And I asked them if they think this will be any kind of problem. And they say, oh, no, this will be no problem at all. The kids love us. It's all good. That's not reality. Like, that's impossible. I don't care who everyone is involved in a situation. Whenever you have kids from previous relationships, of course, it's going to add hurdles. Once again, that's okay. Life has hurdles for all of us. In all of our ventures, there are hurdles for us to overcome. So from this simple first video, first of all, welcome to you. If you need to know anything about me, my name is Mark. My wife is Adina. We've been married for, I think, 27 years now. 3 kids that are grown and out of the house, and we love great marriage. We believe that marriage is not about avoiding divorce. We believe marriage is about creating a powerful, love-filled, purposeful relationship where 2 people live life better and stronger because you're with each other. But it takes intentionality to build. So I'm glad you're doing this. I want to give you some homework, and then I recommend you give at least a day or more before you get into the next video. The homework is this. I want you to find a couple in your life. You may not even know them well. Either find a couple that is very successful at family and ask them to sit down and have a conversation with you. Take them to coffee or to dinner and ask them questions like, okay, so your marriage seems like it's been successful. Can you tell us how? Can you tell us about any tough times you've had in your marriage? Ask them, what advice would you give to us? Now, you might also know a couple that has struggled. Maybe you know someone that got divorced and they're a friend of yours and you feel that they're vulnerable enough to have a conversation like this where you ask them, so marriage, it brought you heartbreak. Can you tell us about it? What do you think went wrong? If you have someone in your life vulnerable enough to have that conversation, I'd recommend that too. So that is your homework. I want you to have a conversation with somebody and glean from them. Remember, on a scale of -10 to +10, you're starting at 0 at best. Do your homework, come back in a day or so, and watch the next video.